Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. This is a television resource, the magic of television, to help illuminate the things that matter to the people of Oakville. And with me today is Lisa Kohler, who leads the Halton Environmental Network. She was telling me a funny story about some neighbors who were questioning if it was about chickens. And she told me that in response to me saying, I've always loved the name because the sort of mother hen image that I took from it. But Lisa, tell everybody what happened.
We reside at QEP CCC, a great LEED building here in the town of Oakville. That's where our offices are. And next door we have a wonderful group of ladies that do fabric art every Thursday. And believe it or not, the ladies thought that we were chicken farmers. They had no idea that we were an environmental organization. Now that they know us, they've actually produced a beautiful piece of art, toxic art, that hangs in our offices. And we have a wonderful relationship with a great group of people.
I hate to digress, but does toxic art mean that it's going to kill you?
No, it doesn't. So it's like an uber upcycling kind of beautiful display of fabric art. So the woman was inspired by taking rubbish and old tea bags and all sorts of different things, dyeing the fabric and then infusing it on a really beautiful textile that hangs in our office. It's a great reminder of how we can reuse, reduce, and think about our impact.
So it's a recycling piece of art?
You bet it is.
Okay, sounds better than toxic. So now how did, whether we call it hen or not, how did the Halton Environmental Network get started? I know our viewers would like to know that as a kind of setup for our discussion today.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, we turned 15 this year, so we have long roots in our community. We started as a small organization, and we've really transformed over the last couple of years. We're now really working with climate change, specifically around adaptation and mitigation for the community of Halton. We have a great dynamic board of directors that have really changed the kind of scope of our work. We certainly are still collaborating. We're looking for different opportunities in our community, and we really want to talk about the challenges of climate, how we can adapt, how we can mitigate, and how we can work together to solve this challenge.
And how does hen relate to the Burlington Green, Milton Green, Oakville Green organizations that operate because of their names, at the local municipal level?
Those groups are all fantastic partners of hen. They all do great work in our community. Oakville Green, the Ready for Rain program, their school program, it's top notch. We just couldn't say enough about our partnership. We always look at ways that we can work together better for our community. So all of those groups, we have wonderful relationships. We try to not duplicate, but work together to really have some more action.
And are they like members of hen, or is hen something else?
Yeah, we don't really have memberships anymore. We used to, absolutely. But we've actually moved away from that. Those groups really don't require memberships anymore. They're their own entities. We just rather work with them in partners and collaborate with them as much as possible.
And does hen have members?
No, we don't have members anymore. We used to have members, many smaller local environmental groups. A lot of those groups actually have transitioned. A lot of them have had great successes, and they've disbanded for one reason or another. So we don't really have memberships anymore, but we would work collaboratively with everyone in our community.
So you've become kind of an interesting helping agency to get out the word about climate change and other environmental issues. And I know that our town in Oakville, we care very much about that. And everybody in Halton, I think, got a wake-up call 3 or 4 years ago when Burlington had those massive floods. There was a very unique meteorological event where a thunder cell just kind of stationed itself over a really critical part of Burlington where the ability to absorb rain was limited, and just started dumping. And normally a thunder cell kind of moves across the landscape at 30 miles an hour and can do a lot of damage when it decides to take up residence, which is what it seemed to do. So let's talk about the way you're working on climate change and helping people understand what they can do.
Absolutely. I think the first way is really to talk about it. It's the best thing that we need to do for our community. Like you mentioned, the rain bomb is what I like to call that episode that happened in Burlington.
That's a terrific way to describe it. That's exactly what it was.
We know that rain bombs are more in our future. We also know that windstorms, we have a higher probability for windstorms, ice storms as well. These aren't things that they're not anymore when it will happen. It's not a if it will happen. It's a when it will happen now. So because of that, we really do need to adapt. But we also need to be responsive and mitigate. So that's what HEN's working on. How do we look at mitigation for our community so we can be responsible citizens and lead the way as Oakville is on so many different initiatives? But how do we adapt? Because we know these challenges are coming and we need to be responsive and we need to ensure that our community is safe and secure when we do have challenging times.
So is there a lot of information? You have a website, citizens can go there and get materials to discuss with others. How does it work and what's the address?
Absolutely. So anyone can visit our website, follow our Twitter. We're very active on Twitter. We also have.
What are the handles and addresses?
Hen Here is our Twitter handle.
Hen Here?
You bet.
At Hen Here.
Yes,
okay.
On Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
We also have our Facebook page. If you just look at Halton Environmental Network Facebook, you can find us there. And of course our website, haltonenvironment.net. If you just look up that, you'll find us that way as well.
And for the fun of exposing my ignorance, Instagram, what's that?
Instagram is it's another kind of social media platform. It's great. Lots of pictures, lots of engagement with youth. It's a great tool, very effective with the younger generation, I would say.
I heard yesterday that a friend of mine said his 16-year-old granddaughter told him, Facebook is for old people, Twitter is for even older, angry people, and Instagram is where kids go. But I'd also heard that there were things like WhatsApp and other things.
Oh, yeah.
So there seems to be, well, it shouldn't be a surprise, I guess, that kids would just as soon have keep company with each other rather than with older people.
It's true. My vintage, I'm not very proficient in Instagram nor Snapchat or any of those mediums, but my kids certainly are. And I don't think Twitter's angry. I think it's informed, and that's certainly my preference for this vintage anyways.
I don't know. I've seen some trolls on Twitter.
That's for sure.
So how do you get kids involved in HEN?
Great question. So we have a couple different programs. We have a HEN Ambassador program. So we look for that really keen and eager student in high school. So any high school student across the community of Halton can get involved. They take on a campaign. We help them structure it. We teach them about social media, how to get engaged in your community, how to result in direct action. So we talk to them about those, give them tips and tricks. They all network together.
And do your kids help you, guide you how to? You know, what's your kids' reaction to what this is all about?
My kids are their own dynamos, to be quite honest with you. One started a palm oil campaign that really took off. They're very engaged. Another one's involved in World Water Day. So to be honest with you, they're a resource for me. They chat with me about what's going on in their school, how to be involved. It's great.
So you have a spy inside the youth camp, or a couple of spies, it sounds like. Or accomplices, perhaps, is a better word.
I would say accomplices, for sure. We also have the Halton Climate Collective Youth Stakeholder Group, and I'm really pleased to say we have 2 youth from each community helping us design a youth-led summit that will be happening fall 2019. That will be really great with youth feeling empowered on how to mitigate climate.
And what about the uptake of a willingness to try to avoid individual activities that contribute to climate change? Like, how are you finding people? Are people receptive to that? Are people receptive to behavior change?
So behavior change, that is the nugget. That is something that the Halton Climate Collective has been going out in community. We've been doing charrettes in all of our community and really diving in. What does our community love? And as this entity, how can we pair it with climate action? Well, we know our community loves green space, we know our community loves parks, but will they really kind of take that initiative and make some minor changes to really reduce our greenhouse gas emissions?
And what have you found?
I think we are ready. I think our community wants to be leaders in this. I think our community knows the economic benefits. I think there's great green opportunities here, and I think we're ready as a community.
Well, when I look at the presence or absence of organizations like HAN and Oakville Green and Burlington Green and Milton Green in other regions of Ontario, I think we can declare ourselves leaders, like well done, Oakville and Halton. So now, what about this resilient, I can't even say it, resilience?
Resilient hubs?
Resiliency.
Yes.
Resilient is easy, resiliency. All right. What about that?
Well, this is such an amazing project. So we're really grateful to the Oakville Community Foundation for piloting this project with us. And the Oakville Resiliency Hub, we're working with Andy Glynn, who's a Deputy Fire Chief, Emergency Management Department at the town of Oakville. We have other stakeholders involved, and what it's about is neighbors helping neighbors in times of a challenge. So say we have one of those epic windstorms that we talked about and we have some power outages. The concept, the pilot, what it will do is it will open up 6 care anchors that are dotted kind of throughout our community. The care anchors will open up their doors, welcome their neighbors in for a warm cup of tea, hot cup of coffee, be a place for them to charge their cell phone and get information that they might need about the storm.
So describe the anchors a little more detail so we can picture. Is this another home or is it a place?
It is a place. Actually, it's our friends and neighbors in the faith-based organization that have stepped up.
So it'll be at a church?
It will be at a church, synagogue, mosque. It will open up, those communities will open up their doors and welcome their neighbors in. Again, they will have, we're working on a toolkit for them and certain resources. That community is really, really open to the concept of opening up their doors in a time of need and really supporting capacity in our community. So it's great partnership with the faith-based organizations, emergency management, HAN, Oakville Community Foundation. It's just an amazing project that we can't wait to talk more about in the community and launch it in a big reveal, hopefully summer this year.
So you've pre-revealed it now?
I have. I've given you a teaser. I don't want to tell you too much more, other than we're all working together on this great initiative for our local community.
So the hardest part's going to be figuring out a way for individuals to know that it exists and where to go if we have another ice storm and you lose your power for, let's see, I lost my power for 36 hours. It was pretty cold in my house.
It does get pretty cold, absolutely, and we have a really fulsome branding campaign and some social media that we can't wait to get out into the community and talk about. We'll also be doing something throughout the community this summer that you'll see that will really talk about it. So we can't wait to dive in and chat more about these hubs and how it will work, the functions, and again, how we'll build a more resilient community together.
All right. So earlier you mentioned Oakville Green and a Ready for Rain program. Who isn't ready for rain, or is it the rain bomb you're talking about? It's
that rain bomb we were chatting about. So like we know, those supercells do, they will amplify as time continues. We do know this, absolutely. The weather pattern is more disruptive. So Oakville Greens really kind of went outside their box and thought of something, how do we kind of talk about this? And they're looking at different ways to introduce bioswales into our community, places that will actually be like a super absorbent sponge on properties. So we won't get overland flooding or any of some of the challenges that we're seeing.
Well, there's quite a tale about swales all over town. Let's see, how do we do this? So stormwater management is a thing, and it's been a slowly improving thing over the generations. When Oakville, say south of the QEW was built, the idea of how to deal with rain was to have a tiny little depression in your backyard that was almost a ditch, way too shallow to be a ditch, and that's a swale, a rain swale. And people would buy these houses, and the first thing they would do is they would go, well, that's ugly, I want nice smooth, and they'd fill it in. And the next thing you know, everybody in the neighborhood, and maybe even them, would be flooding in their basements. And the town would have to go out and go, well, you see, that's right. And then the next generation of homes, there were more sophisticated ways of dealing with rainwater, stormwater. And you can see those channels, those concrete channels above the QEW here and there across. And then if you go and to skip to the end, nowadays above Dundas, which is the latest and greatest science in stormwater, you see these gigantic stormwater holding ponds. And the only downside of those is they're technically utilities designed to catch and clean rainwater, stormwater, and people want to turn them into natural ponds and call them, when you show up to clean them, people go, "Don't touch my natural pond." And we go, "Well, I'm sorry, but that's actually saving you from flooding."
Absolutely.
So there's a continuing education thing that goes along with improving the technology of handling storm. Back in the first step that I described, where you got swales in the backyard, you'd also have drainage, you'd have grading, so that the rainwater would basically be sent to the street, and the street would be your runoff channel. So we've come a long way from the do as little as possible to guard against disaster style of thinking. It'll be fun to see how much success they have in persuading people to put in swales. You triggered all this because of all the, in my time as mayor, I've had a lot of they always start with someone being angry that there's a swale in their yard, and then there's this education piece. They're newcomers, and why do I have this? Well, protect you.
Absolutely. Well, the swales they're creating are quite beautiful, so hopefully people look at them as something also ornamental, and they have some sequestration value as well. So it's something that will look pretty, so hopefully people will be really engaged with this initiative.
So between cultivated and natural looking, it's going to lean towards cultivated?
No, it's going to lean to natural, but I think natural looks better than cultivated, but maybe that's just a bias from an environmentalist.
Well, I will tell you that from input I received, there are people of both belief in town.
It's very true.
So in your work, do you find that people identify with Halton, or do they identify with their local municipality? Is it a problem calling yourself Halton, or is it just fine?
Actually, it's just fine. We service the whole community, and I think as long as you have that lens of community, it's not a problem. Also, there's a certain power that we can have when we use that word Halton, because it's bringing all those communities together. And
do they all know about Halton? I mean, my experience in Oakville is that it's kind of Oakville hated it when it was created and felt kind of robbed of some local autonomy. The province took away about half of the local autonomy of Oakville, Burlington, Milton, and Halton Hills in 1974 when they created the region. And a lot of people in Oakville's way of dealing with that is to just not, refuse to be aware that Halton even exists. So I've always wondered if you had any difficulty in Oakville calling yourself Halton.
No, we really haven't. I think we have an amazing partnership with the community of Oakville, the town of Oakville as well. Also, the leadership coming out of Oakville can inspire other communities, and we really like to discuss that and work together to really leverage what each municipality can bring to the table. How can we work better together, and then how can we kind of move the needle on climate?
I've always worried about our ability to lead other communities, because in human affairs there's a not invented here barrier to taking things from other communities. Haven't you found there's a little bit of resistance to, they might do it, but I don't want to bring it in from them, because then I'm saying I'm not as good as them, and so people want to, frankly, I'm always tempted when I see a good idea somewhere else to rename it. And don't you find that happens?
Actually, no. I think the challenge is the environment is such a massive problem. We know that climate change is happening. We know the only way we will succeed and have a better community is if we work together. So
is there a Peel environmental network?
Not that I'm aware of. So again, this is a great Halton initiative, and we should all be proud of it. I think through the work of the Halton Climate Collective, it really shows community how well we're working together. So Halton Climate Collective is made up of environmental leaders and engagers from the town of Oakville, city of Burlington, Town of Halton Hills, Conservation Halton, University of Waterloo, Region of Halton, and both school boards, the Halton District School Board and the Halton Catholic District School Board. By all of us coming together and working together, we're inspiring community to kind of drop those labels and challenges and work together to really solve climate challenges.
So Halton is only 550,000, 560,000 people. We're a province of 13.5 million in a country of 33 or 4 million. Don't we have to link up with everybody in order to, I mean, and even Canada is such a small part of the, you know, there's a critique of climate change initiatives that goes along the lines of, how can, if everybody in Canada got on board, how could that change the globe's climate? There's a passive resistance, and some of it's not too passive, that resistance. So how, I'm troubled by the need to get a PEN and a DEN and a YEN, so York Environmental Network, Durham would be DEN, and PEN would be Peel, and so on. I guess in Waterloo and Niagara it'd be different, but you know, Toronto does have equivalent organizations, the Toronto Atmospheric Fund, for example. So how do we go bigger? And I mean, we've got to go Canada-wide or worldwide.
Well, I think that's where we shine and we show our leadership. So the Atmospheric Fund, incredible work is coming out of there. We actually are looking at them and working with them and chatting with them about what does work with Transform TO. We have an opportunity, though, here in Halton. We have a highly educated community. We have the gumption to do something, and I know our community can work together to really leverage those assets and make a plan that could actually be duplicated and replicated across Canada. We're receiving some funding from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. They really do, I think they do feel that we can make this change. We do have some good governance. We are looking forward to that transformative change. And we just need everybody in Halton to get engaged and get ready to act and make a change so that we can start mitigating some more greenhouse gas emissions locally.
So when I was thinking, when you listed off your I don't know what to call your, they're not members, but your
our
partners.
Collective. Yep.
Your collective.
Yeah.
That looks like a model that could be more easily replicated around the country, because those agencies all exist everywhere. And it's encouraging to see the Trillium Foundation. That's we buried the lead of this show. The big news is that somebody is working with you to try to create a model that can be copied and pasted, or copied and varied. Most places, I think, will modify it to local circumstances.
Absolutely, and the other group that's really helping us is the Tamarack Institute, and they're out of the University of Waterloo. They're kind of the leaders when it comes to collective impact, a lot of great successes, and we're getting great advice, wisdom, and support from Tamarack to ensure that we're on the right path. So we're really in a place to be leaders, to leverage our groups, and then to work together to really mitigate greenhouse gas emissions locally. We have some concepts for living laboratories, something that's not done yet in our community. We can't wait to get some more funding coming in and show the community simple and easy ways that they can modify just a little bit of their day to reduce their local greenhouse gas emissions.
So a community like the region of Waterloo is recognized as one of the most progressive communities. They've got a lot of universities. Do they have a Waterloo Environmental Network?
Actually, they do. They do have a great group up there. Absolutely. But
you have to know what they call themselves?
Sustainable Waterloo is their name, and they do great work out of there. However, we do have a lot of shining stars here. For instance, in Oakville, I just did a tour of Sheridan College, and their energy right now, Mission Zero, and the way that they're doing kind of a system of energy and how they're producing it for their campus. It's probably one of the greenest technologies I've seen in a very long time. Everybody should know about it. I think we should all be visiting Sheridan and doing a little tour of the facility, and we should be talking a lot more about it. Also here in Oakville, I think the Community Energy Plan, we had our first meeting yesterday, and I am so excited. The team that's at the table is a great group of diverse stakeholders. Everybody is on the same page, and we can't wait to get out in community and really talk about what an energy plan looks like for this community. For more information, people can visit the town site as well. There's a survey on right now, and the more people that get involved in that, the better the plan will be.
So this is an initiative of the Independent Electricity System Operator, as I understand it, IESO?
No, IESO is at the table. They are one of the partners, but it's actually driven by Sheridan College and the town of Oakville for the Community Energy Plan. It's going to be revolutionary, I think, by having the partnership with Sheridan and the unit that they have and the way that we can talk about district energy heating. I think it'll be transformative for our community.
Well, that's a pretty good prospect. It might be the biggest bit of news in the thing. I'm not sure that we at the town are. I would resist calling us the drivers of it. We're a willing partner, I think, is the way I would put it.
A great partner. Yep.
I mean, Oakville had the province's first municipal energy management plan, but that plan covered what the local government can do. It didn't say what residents should do, and that's what you're about now. And in some ways, that's a bigger hill to climb, because there's a buy-in question that's always hard to complete, and if everybody doesn't participate, you haven't got much.
Absolutely, and that's again why I think it's called the Community Energy Plan, because it's not just about that one group, it's about the collaboration of everyone coming together. And the strongest people coming together is all our community. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that Oakville's municipal energy plan was the first, and that the Association of Municipalities teaches from it to try to get others to do it. And I'm hopeful that the community energy plan will be a success. I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion, and I also hope that you'll let me know what matters to you, and we'll see you next time on Oakville Matters.